Hello and welcome to the MRO Show presented by Chadwell Supply. I'm your host, Adam Porter. Chadwell Supply is 100% dedicated to the multifamily industry. Your order is on our truck, delivered the next day. You can learn more at chadwellsupply.com. Today on the MRO Show, we're going to be having a conversation with Morgan Bartkowiak, who is a renovation manager out of the Midwest. You're based in Columbus. Morgan, welcome.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
So I'm looking forward to talking all things renovations with you. I know it's always a hot topic in multifamily.
Sure.
Whether you're wanting to, you're buying a property to flip it, so you want to renovate it first, or there's some competition around you and you're trying to get a little bit something more to give you an edge to get those residents signing with you. So let's talk a little bit about first coming out of the gate. How long have you been involved in renovations?
Renovations was a new world for me. I started with Chadwell in May of 2023. So that was the first time I've been in the renovation position.
But not your first time in multifamily.
No, but the good thing is most of us did all of our own renovation stuff previous to coming to Chadwell. So I did have a little bit of experience, just not the whole project manager rapport that comes with it.
But you're somebody who has a background in multifamily. Talk a little bit about that.
Sure. So I started with a company that's no longer around back in, I believe, 2016. I was in restaurant distribution for food supplies previously, but found a random job on LinkedIn, gave it a shot, and thus my world in multifamily began with Wilmar. And through that and some other mergers and acquisitions, I left my previous company in 2023 and thought I'd give Chadwell a shot.
And so how have you found that working with the renovations team at Chadwell Supply?
Oh, I love my renovations team. So we are a very tight-knit group. We really lean on each other a lot. I would say that my regional group is probably the closest group I've ever had. We constantly are calling each other, looking for new ideas. Obviously, we have some banter back and forth as well. Yeah. We're very close, and I'm very blessed to have that because that is not something you find everywhere. So it does keep my team very grounded, and I do love the family that we've kind of created.
So when you think about renovations, I know that it's something that every multifamily property is going to have to answer that question and check that box at some point, probably multiple times through the life of that property. But at the same time, it also can feel a little scary when you're looking at your budget and maybe you don't feel like you have the room in the budget for it. What are some questions that a property ownership or property management should be asking before they jump into a renovation?
So with budgets, my goal is to make that process as easy as possible. Not every community has the same needs. So I do have to play design a little bit when it comes to them to meet what needs they have. So with that being said, I want to make sure I'm not going over their budget. I want to make sure I'm fulfilling what their request is. I don't want to push too hard. I know that we're in a competitive industry. We have a lot to offer as Chadwell and what we bring to the table with renovations. So starting at the bottom, kind of building it for each customer, not everything's going to look the same. So my goal and my job is to basically customize that program for each property to maintain their budget.
I gotcha. And for those properties out there that may be considering a renovation, what are some of the reasons that they need to pull the trigger on that and go ahead and make the commitment and start that project?
Well, I guess I have a very, very easy area to compare that to. We are building huge in Ohio. We have multiple headquarters. And if you've ever been there, there is buildings flying up left and right. Everything's a new build. It's always the latest and greatest. Everybody wants the new either black matte or gold fixtures and finishes. They want the stainless steel appliances and all that. With also being Ohio and Columbus, we have some really, really old buildings. Some of them are still brick. Some of them probably need rebuilt. We have a lot of weather. So there can be damages to each unit, whether that be mold problems, unfortunately, possibly infestation problems. We want to kind of look at each possible opportunity as like, all right, how can we make your upgrades fit what the customer is looking for? So we want to make sure that, we're keeping with the stature of what's happening around them.
So it sounds like what you're saying then is that while budgets can still be tight, the need is there because the competition is increasing.
Yes.
So we have to figure out, and we have to help them figure out, and that's one of your jobs, is to help them figure out how to make it work for them.
Yes. So, and Columbus is growing. I don't know. We are probably in dire need of more housing as much as we are building. And it's insane to think that we have so much more room left to keep building apartments when they are literally flooding every single open space available.
What are some ways that an established community, maybe like you said, the ones that they face some of the challenges you mentioned, that they can do an upgrade that's going to deliver ROI for them without breaking the bank?
So one of the biggest things that we have in ours is we do look at some of our exclusive products. We can look at our white falls, we can look at our timbers. So we want to try to keep it, if we can start there and it fits what their project's looking for, if it fits their scope, we use that product to kind of keep their budget down. Another one is not necessarily getting all new cabinets and countertops. We can reface them by using Quicket, who's a wonderful vendor. We have a great relationship with them. Being in the industry for as long as I have, we have good relationships, and I've carried those over through the years. So using, the Kitchen Compact brand, that is very budget friendly. Looking at some of the different vendors for countertops, we don't need granite to make it in. We can still use the laminate, or we can use the Formica, that works too. And it still looks nice, but that doesn't break the bank necessarily.
You can create that welcoming feel, that inviting, wow, look at this, without doing a whole lot. You talked about cabinet refacing. I know that when I was doing remodeling and renovation work, we did a ton of cabinet refacing because it's an inexpensive option that you can deliver that new cabinet look, with some refacing. And then it's amazing what you can do with a few new pulls.
Yes. Yes. And as long as your boxes are good, there's paint included with the kits. You have all the hardware included. It can be delivered to your property. It really takes out a big piece there. So you're not also wasting labor budget by having your contractor or whoever go back and forth between the stores.
So if you're out there and you're a property manager, you're a property owner, and you're needing to do a renovation, you recognize that it's time for a property update or a unit upgrade, you need to work with somebody who's going to be able to bring you some appliances that residential, multifamily residents are looking for, with the finishes they're looking for, but the right margins too. You need to have the right price, and you need to be able to work with somebody who understands how to help you budget properly and still get more bang for your buck.
Yes, absolutely.
And so, talking a little bit about that, there are a lot of different approaches to renovations, from your major CapEx, where you're doing a lot of property redesign and development, to like just a unit upgrade or unit upkeep, kind of a facelift, if you will. Morgan, walk me through a little bit about each one of those options.
Well, like I said, every renovation is very different. Every renovation doesn't look the same. I have Ohio, Western Pennsylvania, and Northern Kentucky. I will tell you the easiest renovations I have are the parts and pieces. I have a wonderful TSM in Pennsylvania who was one of my previous coworkers. So I'm very fortunate for that. Her program is based off of a small Chad pack. So with those unit turns, we're just replacing faucets, light fixtures. We're replacing cabinet hardware. We're doing the smaller things to maintain, to look at their properties and see what's best fit for them.
So you said something there I want to touch base on, and we'll come back to this. So you said something I think is really important part of this process. You go and you talk to them, you see what they need, walk the property with them, physically go there and help them out from the planning process. So talk to me a little bit about the benefits of properly planning a renovation.
Oh, that's a hard one. Properly planning, it comes with its challenges because you don't always know what you're getting into. You might be halfway through a project and they throw something else at you, which now you're scrambling to get or source. Say, for instance, an odd-sized ball refrigerator that you now have to either look at special ordering or, bringing into stock. So that can be definitely a difficult factor to have. So just because we do face that challenge every day.
Yeah, and you don't always know, too. We did a previous renovations podcast, we were talking to somebody and they were saying that they had done a full property remodel on everything, and they had a floor plan that was supposed to be the same size. Turns out maybe not so much. And when they got to the laundry room, they didn't have the space they thought they were going to have. So now here you are, and you're getting that phone call, Morgan. Hey, do you have a washer dryer that's smaller, or do you have a smaller water heater, or do you have a refrigerator that's going to fit the space that I have? How do you manage those kinds of things when that customer calls in the middle of a project and says, "This isn't going to work, Morgan"?
So with that, some of our renovations used to be hardcore templates. My thing that I kind of wanted to stand by, people don't want that anymore because we are finding those changes. Not every wall is the square. Not every wall is the same. So without wasting the parts and pieces for a template project, meaning a kit that's labeled 2x2 or 1x1, we have been doing more of an order form. So we make sure to grab those little odds and end parts and pieces, and they can grab them if they need them necessary for that unit. We don't want to oversell something if it doesn't make the correct fit. So making sure that we also are giving customers the option instead of saying, hey, this is what you have to have for this unit. That's changed a lot, especially with everybody kind of worrying about their budgets. We are finding that in some of these units, we have not everything, has to be literally the same on top of each other. So
sounds like flexibility is the key.
Yes, it is. It is. And having to be, we don't want the same redundant stuff. And people were going over their budget when it was using templates. And that does pose its challenges, especially when it comes to the warehouse.
Logistics, financial, a lot of extra struggles and a lot of extra challenges that are unnecessary. And if you start with that plan you were talking about earlier, and you have some flexibility, you can avoid some of that.
Yes, absolutely.
So along those lines, if you had the opportunity to sit down with every single one of your customers when they first had the idea, you know what, we're going to do a reno, and you were to sit down across the desk from them, what are some of the things you would hope they were thinking about or that you could help them think through?
It's funny because I don't think people think about all the little things. I think that everyone finds it easy. And if anyone's ever been in project management, it is not. More or less, I have people texting me or calling me, hey, I need this well call. I forgot about this. Hey, I need this. That is something that the property is wasting their time on. And I don't like to see that. I try to support that and help where I can. And don't get me wrong, I am the first one to put down my seats and put stuff in the back of my vehicle.
You'll solve the problem.
I do. I am
right.
Unfortunately, fortunately and unfortunately do that. And, it's not a bad thing, but I can't always be doing that to help with the problem. So they have to have an open mind to renovations. They have to know that not everything is going to be absolutely perfect. They have to know that it's going to come with its challenges. They have to know that turnaround times aren't always going to be the next day. This is a project planning process. We can't sit here and say, yeah, everything's going to be there next day, especially when you do start to involve the custom jobs, countertops, cabinets, anything like that, door fronts, anything that we can find. It does have a lead time. So we want to make sure that is known when it comes to the renovation process.
So it sounds to me like part of the planning process, an important part of the planning process, is pre-ordering.
Yes.
And so having a list of the basic things that you're going to need.
Yes.
And then when those other things come up, when it's time for Morgan to throw something in the back of the car, it's fewer items than more items.
Yes. I would like to say I follow that, but I definitely don't sometimes.
So tell me a story about when you saw a renovation go really well and how that worked for a customer.
I actually have one of my first renovations. That is probably my easiest project. So a gentleman named John, he is one of my TSMs. We have a lot of jobs together. It's been pretty amazing to see how our relationship has evolved because we've always known each other throughout the field. I mean, we would always show up to sites together. We were friendly. We just weren't as close as we are today. So with that, it was a townhome. We knew we were doing all of the packages, the appliances, fixtures, faucets, etc. And then we were also doing cabinet fronts. This is by far the easiest renovation I think I've ever had.
Mm.
We're actually almost done. A year and a half later, they only have a couple more units left, which is awesome. We go in, we measure the fronts, get their new fronts. They're there between 5 and 7 days. And then the Chad Pack delivers to the garage with the appliances, everything in it. It's been so easy. They're about to open another project, which is amazing because it's gone so smooth. So that's probably the best one I've had so far. It's just smooth flowing. The contractors go in, go through their order form, put the the quantities that they need. They make sure to really look through the inventory and make sure they kind of plan.
And what a gift for that property team to have a smooth project when you're sitting back there and you're going, all right, we're losing market share. We've got to do something. The budget is what the budget is. These things cost what they cost. And I don't know, last I checked, everything costs a little bit more than it did a couple years ago. Things taking a little more time than they did a few years back in many cases. Sometimes you're struggling to get somebody there. So you need some project manager who can make sure that the people to do the work are going to be there on time. So there's a lot of moving parts in addition to all the actual parts.
Yes, absolutely.
And so when you think about that, what is one of the first things that you do when you're working with a new customer on a renovation project to help make sure that they have as easy a process as possible?
I really believe that maintaining the communication and that relationship makes it easiest. We all know that we have not 100%, we're not always going to be able to answer. But as long as you're open in your communication, I think that makes everything a little bit easier. You want to know when they need stuff. You want to know their deadlines. I try to tell them we have options to order 60 days out. Let's try that so you're not rushing. You want to make sure that they're getting product, but also know we have to plan for that product and make sure they fully understand the full process of that. I think that's the only biggest downfall because people realize that up front, but don't always keep that. And then all of a sudden we're like, oh, we need that tomorrow. I don't want to see the customer panic. So I want to make sure that we're planning these and making sure they know the importance of getting it planned ahead of time instead of, a day before.
So it sounds like having a partner that can be with them through the process is going to be a huge help for them.
Yes.
Because they've got all the regular MRO stuff going on too. So you're coming in to help them manage the process, start to finish from planning, preparation. And you talked about how to keep it moving forward, having the right products, pre-orders, making sure that you're going to have the things you need when you need them. And then you talked about some budget-friendly items that people can really transform the inside of a unit without changing everything. Are there any other items in specifics in addition to say you talked about countertops, cabinets, and those sorts of things? Is there anything else that you feel like is something that is a win-win for a property who's looking to save money and still transform the inside of their unit?
Some of the things I know everybody loves the 2-panel doors. We get it. If we can stick to a 6-panel, it'll still look trendy. We also I know a few of my properties use the bypass doors. They're not wood, they are cheaper, but it is a flexible option for us, especially if they want to maintain a certain budget and do that little bit of an upgrade. So that is, doors are a big one. So when it comes to it, everybody has the old oak or the dark, the dark stained wood. So replacing that and then just a couple other things will make a house or a unit look definitely better than it did.
Lighter, brighter, more inviting. Absolutely.
White and brushed nickel are my go-tos. Don't keep it too trendy. The gold's going to eventually go out. As much as a lot of people are looking into it, it'll go out just like everything. But white and the brushed nickel right now, if you want just an easy upgrade that's going to last for a while, that is my biggest push.
Trust the classics. They've got that staying power. Absolutely.
Yep.
Morgan, thanks so much for taking time to share your knowledge, your wisdom, your experience with us and walk us through some great ideas for properties that are out there looking to do a renovation.
Thank you again for having me.
It's great to have you. Talk to you again soon.
Sounds good.
Well, and if you appreciated this episode of the MRO Show, check us out at chadwellsupply.com/podcast and rate us 5 stars on your favorite podcast service. Thanks.